Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Brent and it's so great to be here with you taking a look at various things related to photography and printing. One quick announcement to make is, hey, we have a new channel name. It's all going to be about taking your photos and making prints of them. And today, with opening this thing, we're going to unbox this new heat mug press and we're going to get a nice print on it. And because of this newer focus on more print-related items here on this channel, the travel photography-related items, go take a look at my new channel name over there. It's called Exploring the Great Outdoors. Go take a look, subscribe to that channel, and hope to see you there as well. So let's get right to opening this box here. I decided to get this one because the other one that we have is still functional and all that. It's just, it never really worked all that well. It has a hard time. You can't really just clamp it down and shut it for good as far as getting that mug in there. Hey, this looks really well done. I'll tilt this up for you. Have a heat glove. That's amazing. Always good to think about that. Some paperwork. A really nice long item for our water bottles and the like. That's going to be amazing. HeatPress Nation was having a Black Friday sale, so I just had to act on it. These are the mugs that we're going to print on. And so it just goes right in there. And then it has some adjusters here for the pressure, but oh, that's beautiful. The way I have it now, it doesn't lock in like that. This is really well made. So let's go ahead and get this in its place and we'll get it plugged in and get to printing. And that's pretty much it. We have the opportunity to swap out the heat item. Now for this mug, of course, this is perfect, but we have these extra items here for allowing us to put in that bigger heat element. And right now, let's see, it is set to 190 seconds, heading on up to 100 and something. Let's see what it's set for. 385, that's pretty good for what we're looking to do. 190 seconds, that's a little bit long probably, so let's take that. So I'm gonna go to 130 seconds. There we go. So that's just over 2 minutes. That should be good enough for the mugs. While this heats up, let's go take a look at getting this thing ready to print. So here we are now in the office and I'm taking a look at some images that I recently made, well, somewhat recently made in Panama. And I'm thinking of these birds, these hummingbirds I went to go shoot. I'm gonna put one of these images on the mug. So I like either that one or down further here, I know there's another one. And what I'm looking for in a subject like this for the mug is just something that has a very clear, very simple subject, because it's not going to be very big. That's a nice one, but I know I've got one that's just a little bit, I think, brighter color, because that's going to be another something I want to look for is just what is the color all about? Is it nice and punchy enough? Here's one that's kind of active, a little bit blurry, so I don't know that I want to put this on a mug. Beautiful shimmery color there, but again, that gesture, is that exactly what I want? Yeah, let's, here's a nice one. And as I zoom into 100%, let's try that. There we are. I'm getting really good detail, really good definition still on the feathers and all that stuff. So this is probably the hardest part of this whole process. Let's filter my view so I see just these 5 stars. And when we look at just the 5 stars only, we can see I've got a nice selection already of these. I like this one because there's, I don't know, there's just a lot of good gesture here, a little bit of a coming up here with the twig and the twig that he's sitting on. It's all good, but this one's just really nice and clear. It is the bird. And this one, the reason I probably won't choose this one is because it's just a really dark subject and a really bright background. And I'm looking for something that's going to really help the subject stand out. And so like on this one, what I might do, let's go to the develop module, and I'm going to do what I can here. Let's see, I've already got the bird body itself selected. And so if I were to just emphasize this just a touch more, I'll either give it a little more clarity, I can bump its exposure just a hair. Now I'm going to take it to what I think is too bright, and then I'll go ahead and go to the everything here, and I'll just darken everything, and then that keeps the body nice and vibrant, nice and bright. Let's kick up our clarity and our texture just a little bit so these things come out a little extra nice. And I think I'll go ahead and run with this one. Now I'm going to go ahead and just open this up in Photoshop. So we'll say edit in, and we'll do Photoshop. But what I need to do is set up a new file, because here's the mug right here. And I'm going to go ahead and measure this and see exactly what my measurements are so that I can set this thing up somewhat intelligently. And so as I go all the way around, basically I'm just going around the circumference here. I've got about, let's see if I can show that on screen there. I've got roughly 9 inches of usable diameter here. I should say circumference. So about 9 inches of usable circumference. And then what is my height? I'm going to go just a little bit under that lip and just a little bit above the bottom edge here. So that's 3.5 inches. So I've got 9 by 3.5 inches that I'm able to utilize. So let's go ahead, and when we're in Photoshop, we're just going to start a new document here. And we're going to do inches. The width will be 9. This will be 3.5. I'm going to run it at 300 pixels per inch because I know that's what the printer likes to have. Not that it's a super huge deal, but when you get used to a certain process, you just like to stick with it. When I'm printing big, 240 like you saw there is really good. I like the 240, but when I'm printing small, I tend to go with the standard 300. And some reason that went to 50. So I'm going to go back here and do 9 and then 3.5. There it is. And let's hit create. Now we have to think too, we're going to envision this as a panel. So I'm right-handed. So this first roughly third, so 3 inches by 3 inches by 3 inches, these are basically kind of like, we can think of these as our panels. Or we can also think of, all right, we have a front, a side, and a back here is what I'm talking about. But we can also think about it as just a front and a back. So if we were to go to the roughly 4.5 inch line, just I'm trying to start to envision those dimensions as to where the image is going to be. And what I'll probably also do is just kind of chop this up and manually apply it. But that's all right. We'll get to that point when we get there. But what I want to do first is just show my rulers. Oops, they were already showing. Command R. And then I'm going to come over here, and at the 4.5 mark, I'm going to draw one of these guidelines. So I know exactly where the middle is. I can gauge it a little bit. Certainly, probably my first, well, it's going to be on this side over here. This is going to be the panel that's facing me. This part here is the panel that's facing me. And so that first ½ inch or so is basically useless to me. As far as any detail that I want to keep legible or keep readable, that's what I mean by useless to me. I could still put image over there, but yeah, I'm going to not put anything that's really important there. And so I'm going to continue drawing these out and placing these here. There we go. So now I've got my panels. So on this one here, over here on the left-hand side, that's going to be this area here, this ½ inch right there. I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, nothing important goes there. Everything else gets centered in here. All right, so I've got a few things that I want to bring into this as well. So before I get to the photo, one thing I want to bring into it simply is my logo. So I'm opening this logo up here in Photoshop, and really all I want is just the hat. So I'm going to select the artboard that has just the hat. And I'm going to move this up to 300 just so, again, I can have everything equal. I don't want it to have weird things when I bring this into this document or not. And you might think, well, why didn't you just bring that over as a smart object? I totally could do that. This is going to be big enough and fine enough. we'll just do this, come over here, gonna hold shift to lock it in the center. And this is where I'm gonna convert it to a smart object. I right click over here, come down here to convert to smart object, and then what I can do is Command T, and now I've got the ability to resize this and do whatever I want with it as it relates to its size, etc. And I haven't thrown away any pixel information, and that's the benefit of the smart object. So I'm going to put that right there, and what that means is I'm going to basically have my hat right there, and I'm going to have the photograph on the outside of the mug over here. That's going to be the intent anyway. Now let's go bring that photograph in, and I'm going to actually resize this first here because I know that I don't need, I'm going to go 300 to keep everything equal, and the height is going to be 3.5 inches. That's going to be the most I need it. Now, there's also the thought, what if I need to resize it just slightly once I get it over here? I don't think I'm going to need to do anything except maybe shrink it. So I'm going to feel fairly comfortable running with this. So let's go ahead and just do this. Bring it over here. I'm going to hold shift, which locks it in the center. Target has different color source. Do you want to proceed? Yeah, that's fine. So basically what happened there is this is ProPhoto RGB. This is going to be sRGB. It was giving me a warning. You're going to have some changes here. And so I appreciate Photoshop giving me that warning. Oh, look at that. That is perfectly sized. Wow. I did not plan that at all. This was absolute serendipity. But there's one more thing I want to consider doing to this image. That is bringing in this element here. Eons ago, here at the university, I purchased a pack from this place called Graphic Authority, and so occasionally I bring these out for the students to think about using. Basically what I can do is I can use this item here as a clipping to give me kind of that rough edge appeal for the bird. This is going to be really easy to do, so all I got to do is bring this over to our document here. Of course, it is now way too large, so I'm just going to downsize it, doing a Command T for transform. Then I'm going to downsize it, and then I'm going to get it to fully be within the dimension of the mug. There we are. Yeah, that's kind of cool. And because this is a transparent graphic, what I can do in the layer stack, bring the bird up top, and then I'm going to hold Option, and I'm going to click that line between the two layers. And then what it does is it's clipping everything in the bird layer. It can only show if there's something underneath it, if there's a pixel underneath it. And because that is made up of black and no pixels, basically, we're able to make that work. It just works fine. So I'm on the Move tool. I'm selected on the clipping mask is what we call that. And I'm going to hold Shift and then hit my right button and just my arrow key and just transfer this over here this way. And see, this is where I'm probably going to go, since this is the first time running this size of mug, I'm probably going to go ahead and just trim this off when I actually have it printed. And I'm going to manually center it right where I want it. Then what I can look at also is to say, all right, how close am I here to the true center? I can select both of these, and now I can, move both of these over to the true center. Another problem I'm having with these items, I'm going to switch over to the brush tool by hitting the B key, hit the left bracket to make my brush a lot smaller. And we can see here I've got some kind of weird color, whatever that beige is. I want black to be there. So I'm going to go ahead and hit X to do that. And please remember here, I'm on the clipping mask. My problem is this little bit of whatever that is right there above the bird's beak. I find that distracting. I know that's on the clipping mask, so I'm going to go ahead and just paint that in. And this is coming in slowly because my opacity is at 50% and my flow is at 50%. And I'll go ahead and soften the edge of the brush. There we are. So let me go ahead and go around the bird and just make sure, as far as the bird is concerned, I'm going to make sure we have it solid. There's not going to be any of this funky business going on. and the bird is going to be solid. The rest of the parts, it can kind of be sketchy and chalky and do whatever else it's doing. I think that's going to make a really cool mug. So that and my hat over here that will be on this side of the mug, I'm pretty pleased with that. So now, first off, of course, I'm going to save it out, and then I'm going to transfer this over to the computer that will do the printing for me. So we'll pick it up at the printing stage. Okay, we're up here in the lab now where I've got the machine that prints to the little Epson printer. This is a dye sublimation printer. I'll show you a little thing on screen here. It's the Epson F170. And what we're looking at doing here is just simply printing this. Of course, we've already prepped it down in the office, and so all we need to do now is print it. It's ready to go. I did, however, flatten this to a JPEG. So this machine, I just like to do what I can to simplify the process as much as possible, and by taking away layers and all that stuff and just flattening it to a JPEG, that's probably going to be a good thing for it. So let's do Command P to get it printed. Of course, this is all set up now, but this is set up for a much different printer. Let's go ahead and switch this over to the SC F100 series. We're then going to take a look at this item here, the color handling. We're going to do Photoshop manages color. What's really sweet about this particular machine, the Epson machines, I also have the 570, which is a 24-inch wide machine, but what's really sweet about these items is the fact that when you install the print drivers, they install then these ICC profiles. And what I have found to be really good, regardless of what I'm printing on, I prefer the textile item. It puts just a little more ink down, gets me a little more rich colors. And so I really like that. And so I'm going to go ahead and select rigid here. But let's make sure we're printing to the right size. So we're going to do print settings button here. And we're going to select now just a standard US letter. Here it is, US letter. And then we need to go down here to printer options. Make sure our color matching is completely eliminated here. We don't have any option to make any selections here because we chose Photoshop manages color. If for some reason, I think I've seen this more on a PC than I have on a Mac, but if for some reason that was still available to be selected, those changes, those options were available to be selected, you could end up with a double profiling issue. And we don't want to do that. So we're going to then go down here to print settings. We're going to use this textile once again, and I'm going to select fine here. And yes, it will mirror the image because it then gets remirrored when we apply it. So now we're just going to hit OK, and then we hit save here. And then we can see our rendition here now on the screen. It looks excessively low res for some reason, but I'm going to trust that it's going to be okay. Once again, Photoshop manages color, relative color metric, we're going to do okay with that, whereas perceptual, basically if this came out and it looked odd, then I would go and do it again with perceptual, but relative is usually where I want to be. All right, then we're going to do, especially since this is already down to sRGB, there's not going to be any problems. If this were Pro Photo, maybe I'd have some problems, but that's why we shrink it down to sRGB. All right, we need to load some material in the printer. I think we're low anyway. So it's this Epson DS Transfer Multi-Use. And then if you're ever wondering, what is my print side? You can look at it. It's hard to tell in this light, especially on camera. But for this paper, this print side is just slightly cooler in color temperature. It's a little bit more blue than the other side. Oh, I already had some in there. Look at that. The fun part of this thing is the paper just kind of sits in there loosely. But anyway, I have to insert it upside down like so, because it's going to take it and print on it when it flips it over. Then we hit the old print button. We're going to get one copy, hit the old print button, and then we'll wait and see what happens here. That looks really good. Nice and sharp. Everything's looking really great. The colors definitely look different here than what we see on screen, and they'll look different again when we get it on the mug. So everything's looking good. The only thing I could have done better would be to give myself a cut line some kind of border element so it'd be easier to follow for cutting. But since I'm actually going to go ahead and just cut these out individually and paste and tape them on there independently, no, I'm not going to worry about that right now. So anyway, let's go ahead and trim these out and get them on the mug. So the heat press is all heated up and ready to go. I just need to cut these out and get them taped on. I've got my extra large scissors here. Not that this paper is tough to cut or nothing, but I just really like these scissors. We're going to then use this special tape to put it on there. And we'll recall I wanted to put the image on this side so people that are away from me are able to see it. And so I want to be able to think about putting it on about like that. But what I'm going to do is hold it like this. I can kind of sort of see the image through the paper, trying to make sure that it's level, but that's also why we have that chalk edge kind of thing that we put on it. Ooh, that's a really big piece of tape. I don't need something that big. And then I'm going to go around the circumference of it. All right, that'll be fine. It's a little bit shifted up actually, so I'm going to go ahead and make an adjustment here. All right, something like that should be okay. And I've left a little bit of tape there, but that's not going to hurt anything. Now, as far as is that centered this way in it, looks pretty good to me as far as being centered on that panel. And now it's time to do the same with my hat. And now we just insert it and press. And this is what's beautiful about this thing is it just holds it in. It probably could use a little more pressure, so I'm going to go ahead and up the pressure just a little bit. And then we have another 115 seconds or so for it to cook that image on there. Previous experience tells me in the neighborhood of 400 degrees, about 2 minutes usually does pretty good on this stuff. So I'm at about 385 and it's slightly over 2 minutes, totally going to be fine. One thing I would recommend you do is as you work this, if this is new to you, as you work this, find something a time that works just perfectly for you. Because the difference in pressure, the difference in temperature, and the difference in time can make subtle changes, can make some differences in how that image comes across on your mug. When it comes time to pulling it out, this handle will be pretty hot. Right now it's not too bad, but oftentimes the handle itself gets pretty warm. Maybe this will be something that doesn't get too hot. I have another minute left. All right, about 20 seconds left, and it has dipped down below about 325 degrees and it's building back up slowly. That's another thing about when you put in a cold mug, it's going to take a lot of the heat just to heat up the mug itself. And that's why we want it so hot as a starting temperature. Hey, it's done. Oh, that's a beautiful amount of pressure I was able to put it on. That's not too bad. I can pull that out without burning myself. Of course, if I were to touch anywhere in here, I would expect to be burnt. What I've usually found to be the case is let it cool a little bit, but I usually want to get this peeled off, this thing taken off fairly quickly. Some mugs I've noticed, oh, beautiful. Some mugs I've noticed this paper will stick to the mug, and that's just annoying as all get out. And if I take it off while it's hot, then it's good to go. But this mug is beautiful, it's perfect. And that coloration is really, really good. Is it exactly what it was on the monitor? No, for sure it's not. It's a CMYK process. It's also a dye sub process. We need to accept a few changes in the color, but it's easily what I would call within spec. And then the hat is looking amazing as well. So there we have it. We unboxed it, we printed it out, and now we've got, ouch. That's still really hot. And now we've got an amazing little keepsake. Could be an amazing gift as well. Thanks again so much for watching, and we look forward to having you in the next video where we're going to look at more printing related options. I've got a process that I actually like, I think, a little more than printing on metal. Printing on metal is amazing, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to share that with you in the next video, so stay tuned. Thanks so much for being here. Until next time, God bless and happy printing.